Hello everyone, once again welcome to module 4, and today we are going to then look at PHP based POS, that is hypertext preprocessor based point of sales deployment, that is both offline and online, and that is what the module 4 is all about. So without wasting my time, let's get started.
Armstrong Computers, we're leading the way, bringing ICT to your doorstep every day. Where vision meets excellence, we stand strong.
At the end of this model, participants will then understand the following. That is a hypertext preprocessor based point of sales deployment, that is offline and online. More or less, we'll be looking at how to then set the PHP based point of sales in both offline and online. And the second thing we'll also be looking at, so far as this model 4 is concerned, we'll be looking at how to install, more or less how to install and set up the PHP point of sales. In addition to that, the third thing we'll be looking at is we'll be looking at how to then deploy the point of sales on a live web server, that is, and also local web server. As you know, in module 3 we then talk about how to set up a local server like XAMPP, WAMP, and then MAMP. So we'll also be looking at how to set up the hypertext preprocessor based point of sales on a local server, and also on a web server that is live. In addition to it, also we'll also be dealt with how to then integrate a payment gateway, and we'll be looking at using the Flutterwave and Paystack. We have a couple of payment gateway that indeed you realize that I sent that to the group. You guys can just take a recap of that and also know what payment gateways are. So this is what we'll be looking at in module 4. Moving on, the next thing we'll also be covering, so far as what's installing and setting up the PHP point of sales. Under the installation, we'll be talking about installing the PHP point of sales system, and also we'll also be looking at how to then set it up on some of the local servers. And the local servers we'll be looking at how to set it up on XAMPP, WAMP, and also that is for the localhost. And also we'll also be looking at how to set it up on the cPanel for online. So that's what we'll be looking at now. In addition to that, the third thing we'll also be covering in this model, so far as module 4 is concerned, we'll also be looking at how to download the PHP point of sales project file, and which means that at the end of the day we'll be giving the project file to you, which is the source code, the script, where you guys can equally download it in the course portal. In addition to that, also we'll also be looking at creating a database and also importing the SQL file, which is the database file, into the database that we are going to create in the cPanel, and also create it in the local server, which is the XAMPP or the WAMP. So that's what we'll be looking at so far the fourth segment is concerned. The fifth thing we'll also be dealing with is we'll also be looking at how to configure the config.php and also .env file. These are executable files, so we'll be looking at how to configure them so far as to connect the database to it, so that it can both work offline and online, and understanding the config and also the .env file. Taking that from the way, we'll also be testing the local host, so the local server, the dashboard. We'll also be testing it, which you will see how responsive it is. We test it whether it is working. So we test the login and also the dashboard functionalities, which that's what we'll be covering in the installation, and also the setup process. That's what we'll be covering in the installation and the setup process. Taking that from the way, the next thing we'll be looking at will be deploying the point of sales system, which is the PHP point of sales system on the local web server offline. We'll be looking at that first, which will also be focusing on using the XAMPP, setting it up on XAMPP or WAMP. In addition to that, also under the setup, we'll be creating a folder in the htdocs or the www directory. So if you are using XAMPP, which we'll be looking at the XAMPP first, we'll create a folder, a project folder, and then give and then give a name to it in the htdocs. But if we are looking at the WAMP, we'll then create a project folder in the www directory folder and name it being our project folder, which we'll be looking at that in this module 4. In addition to it, also we are also going to access access the project folder or our project using the localhost / our project name, okay, the name in which, or the folder that we created in the htdocs or the www directory. We'll be looking at that also. Take it out from the way, under the deployment of the point of sales on the local server, we'll also be dealt with how to set up, okay, our database, that is database setup via PHP MySQL admin. So we create our database, we set the database up in my PHP MyAdmin so far as the local server is concerned. And then after doing that, under the creating of a database, we'll also be looking at how to then test the system and how to better make the system to be responsive on on the local server through mobile and also any primary devices, so far as it's being responsive is concerned. And that's what we'll be looking at in this module 4. Moving on, the next thing will also be dealt with after in this module 4. We'll also be looking at how to deploy the point of sales on the live web server, that is online. Okay, so anytime we talk about live web server, they're referring to setting up a system or the point of sales or any web application online, which we'll be looking at that. In addition to that, also we'll also be choosing a free hosting and a domain, which I talk about that in our previous lessons as far as module 3 is concerned. And also those are the kind of the free hosting, infinite free, and also we'll also be using 00 web host, which now is owned by Hostinger. We'll also be looking at how to then set the POS system up there. And also we'll also be looking at how to upload the project, okay, into the file manager or the FTP using the FileZilla. So we'll also be looking at that. In addition to that, also we'll also be looking at how to create a database online the cPanel so far the PHP MyAdmin is concerned. Now adding that to that, we'll also be looking at how to import the SQL file so far the database is concerned. We're importing the database file into the database that we created in the PHP MyAdmin, how we can import that database file into it. Now this is telling us that we are going to set the system up offline, and then we'll decide to deploy it, okay, or migrate it online, which we'll see how that is being done, which we cover that in module 3. In addition to that, we'll also be looking at the configuration of the database by using a text editor to config the config.php folder. In addition to that, we'll also be testing the point of sales that we've deployed on live server, and also test it on mobile devices, tablets, mention it to see how it's going to be responsive. So this journey of module 4 is going to be awesome. It's going to be interesting. So this is what we'll be looking at throughout the module 4. In addition to it, so far as the payment gateway is concerned, we'll also be integrating the payment gateway, where we are going to look at the we introduce ourselves to Flutterwave and Paystack. These are not the only payment gateway. We also have PayPal, we also have Stripe, and so on and so forth. So there's a whole lot of payment gateway, but we are going to focus on Flutterwave and also Paystack to integrate it into our points of sales. In addition to that, we'll also be looking at the setup, okay, of the account so far as user account is concerned. And also we are going to also learn how to integrate the payment gateway API, so the API key, so far the public key and then the serial key is concerned, and there was the system using the payment gateway. So at least when visitors or probably customers want to pay via mobile money, they can equally pay via mobile money. In addition to what, we also be embedding the payment button into the point of sale so far as checkout payment is concerned, which we'll be looking at that also. To summarize it all, we'll also be looking at the configuration of the payment gateway to confirm the transaction, tracing the sales transaction, and so on and so forth. As you can see, the last one, we are going to focus on the security so far as the integration of the payment gateway so far as the PHP versions are concerned, what one must consider, and also what one must put in, the measures one must put before integrating this payment gateway. So that is what we'll be looking at in this module 4, and it's going to be awesome. Then after that, we are going to get some couple of resources. The resources we'll be getting, which will be in the last slide, the resources we'll be getting is one, we'll be getting the video tutorial, okay, where participants can go and take a recap of it in the portal, and also you also be getting the download source file. You'll be getting that, and also you'll also be having the access to the API documentation for the payment gateway so far the Paystack and the Flutterwave is concerned. So these are what we are going to cover. Catch you in the next lesson. My name is Prince Armstrong, can you call me Prince Costi. See you when I see you in the next lesson. Bye bye.
Armstrong Computers, we're leading the way, bringing ICT to your doorstep every day. Where vision meets excellence, we stand strong, transforming students where they belong. In the halls of knowledge, we light the spark.